to the 4th and 11 show on Monday, April 1st. There is no news in sports today. That's just a joke. It's April Fool's Day. It's April 1st. This 4th and 11 show, I am Jacob Steiner, bringing all the sports and news all in one show today. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Steiner. At Jacob Steiner. You can follow me there and get up to date on quite a few different sports, and also have any questions about the show, or if you want to have me answer some questions that you have about the sports world inside the show, please hit me up on at Jacob Steiner at Twitter. So we got some birthdays here today. First off is Robin and Brooke Lopez. They are turning 30 today. The twins are still in the NBA today, still bringing in buckets. At least one of them, at least. You know, Brooke Lopez, obviously the better one of those two. But Robin Lopez brings you a little bit more of the funny side, as he always makes fun of all the mascots, and he always has fun, and you know, and that's always a Twitter meme or an Instagram or Snapchat meme, but you can always see Robin Lopez on those memes of just, you know, messing around with the mascots before the game. And what would you do without your other brother? Brooke Lopez for the Milwaukee, the first place Milwaukee Bucks. Go Bucks right now, and because, you know, they don't have anyone really in the East to stop them. It may be the Toronto Raptors, but, you know, Cleveland's not there this year, so, or at least LeBron James is not there. Cleveland is there, but LeBron James is not, and LeBron James is not even in the playoffs, so a lot of teams have a fair amount of chance to beat off the Golden State Warriors. Everyone's going for that team, and, you know, we will see. Speaking of the Golden State Warriors, the next happy birthday goes to Mark Jackson, who was an NBA player and was recently a coach for the defending world champs Golden State Warriors. He got fired for Steve Kerr in 2013 and 2014 as well, or 2013-2014 season. The Golden State Warriors had 51 wins that year, and still Mark Jackson was fired. And, well, could he have been, you know, the Steve Kerr mentality and brought them to the World Championship? Who might have known? But Steve Kerr did do stuff that Mark Jackson didn't, and that's why Steve Kerr was able to get this team farther in the playoffs. He brought Andre Iguodala into the starting lineup. David Lee sat on the bench. He rested some guys. He was like a Greg Popovich almost, and he allowed them to shoot, and the Golden State Warriors eventually just dominated the whole league. They just did three-point shooting better than anyone in the whole realm of the NBA. But happy birthday to Mark Jackson. He is still an NBA commentator, so he still has a job. But, you know, Mark Jackson, happy birthday to you. And a few new things I want to do to start the baseball season off. The pitcher of the week in baseball. This time we have two, because I saw two great pitchers, at least on opening day. There was Chirinos last night against the Astros. I did see that. He put up a monster effort. Then we had the White Sox pitcher, I forgot his name, who put up 7 innings of a no-hit show. Chirinos almost had a no-hitter as well until Jake Marisnick hit a home run off of him. But he also held the Astros to 1 run in his 6-inning effort. So props up to Chirinos for that. But our two pitchers of the week is Jacob deGrom versus Max Scherzer on opening day. Jacob deGrom for the Mets had 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 walk, and 10 strikeouts, and 0 earned runs. And also Max Scherzer, who had 7.2 innings pitched, 2 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 12 strikeouts, and had 7 Ks in the first 4 innings. Look, guys, that's how you just pitched a good performance. But Max Scherzer did not pitch very well against Robinson Cano, who had a home run and drived in a second run later in the game before Max Scherzer was pulled. And the newly acquired Robinson Cano on fire on opening day for the Mets. He looks to continue that into next week and bring the Mets back in the playoffs. We haven't seen them in the playoffs in a while since their last World Series appearance, which they lost to the Royals. And I was hoping that the Mets would win because my dad just was a Royals fan, and it's just annoying to hear your father just ran on about their team. But that's what same with every fan-loving person in the whole world. But I did it to my dad when the Astros won the World Series, and I'm pretty sure everyone did it to the other person. That's the way rivalries work, and kind of love it because that brings people together, and that's why we are all here today to talk about some sports. And now for the batter of the week in baseball is Jock Peterson. I found his, first game pretty, great against the D-backs. He had 2 home runs in that first game. He also went 3 for 5 on opening day. He is just dominating the league. He has 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, and a .583 batting average for the start of the season. I mean, yes, it's been, I think, 4 games for him this year. All against terrible pitching, and the Diamondbacks, they definitely need to revamp that roster of pitching rotation since they only have Zach Greinke, who's not that great of a pitcher since he had left Los Angeles. But that is your batter of the week, Jock Peterson for the Los Angeles Dodgers, my most hated team, at least in the NL. Cardinals are probably right behind them, mostly because I'm an Astros fan, and the Dodgers almost took away that World Series title from us, and that was most likely the most offensive-packed World Series, and I loved it. Loved it. It's one of the greatest. Will always go down as one of the greatest World Series in my mind. But that is Jock Peterson's a doozy. He's a great outfielder, great player, great person, and I just wish he wasn't a Dodger because I would watch him every night. But today, as always, it's time for the Monday rant, and today's topic today is to pay the players or not to pay the players in the NCAA, and this is based off of the fact that we're here at the Final Four. This is the Final Four weekend, coming up, and it's just a beautiful topic to start out with for the Monday rant. So cue that music. Oh yeah, listen to that classical music get into you. Doesn't it make you just want to go on a rant? I think it does. So, to pay the players or not to pay the players is a discussion that's been going on for a while. It's been since the NCAA. The NCAA, the football game, the EA Sports, the one that every child wants every fall. Yeah, that was stopped like a while ago. It went back in 2014. It's been 4 years of just nonsense, just back and forth bickering between the players and the associations. Football's never going to change because football, you can't go out of the country, there's no D-League, so you have to go to college for 3 years. But basketball's different. If you, like a month ago maybe, I think it was, that the NCAA or the NBA has changed their draft rules to about 18 now. And that's huge. People can just come right straight out of high school, and this NCAA basketball that we're talking about won't be the same as it was this year. Because Zion Williamson, those type of players are not going to stay and go to college unless your mom just says, hey, I want you to go to college. That's highly unlikely when you're facing millions of dollars for your poor family versus just going to college for a year, 2, 3 years, 4 years, get a degree that you're probably not going to be using because most likely you're going to be in the NBA. And you could have been in there 4 years ago making millions, but now you're making millions and you have this useless degree until maybe you're just done with all this NBA crap and you just want to go open up a business. You want to use your business degree to just open up a business. But hey, that business fails and you've only been in the NBA for 5 years and now you're bankrupt and now you can't play in the NBA anymore. It's just a whole stupid thing. It's a disgusting conversation. It's a disgrace to anyone who asks. There's a lot of different rules that should go on with it. But my inner child right now wants to play NCAA football. I want the new jerseys, the new teams. I want to bring, my favorite, my alma mater, my school to the championship. I want to win in the four-person playoffs because they ended right before we get to use that. But sadly, players want to be stingy. College wants to be stingy. Everyone wants the money. It's all about the dang money. I wish everything was free, but that's not the way the world works, and it's just so overrated. There's going to be a lot of rules changes, a lot of different things, but the NCAA could lose their money maker in basketball in a few years. They're not going to lose it because there's going to be scrubs like me that were bench warmers during varsity days in high school that will want to play college ball, and they'll be able to play at Kentucky, North Carolina, and play under these. Well, they're not going to be there anymore, but good coaches. They'll be good coaches. They might be able to play for them. Obviously, they want to earn scholarships, but then the basketball game is not going to be the same way as it was before with Zion Williamson's dunking over every other guy on the floor. It's not going to be the same because basketball is going to be ruined by money-making businesses like universities who make billions a year off these kids, and it's just going to be a funny little thing to see what happens to all these kids and universities. What's going to happen? Are they going to pay the players? Are they not going to pay the players? And it's just darn frustrating. But look, we need to get this straight. I'm on the side to pay the players even though I didn't play in college. But I mean, these are billion-dollar businesses. Yes, they can make billions more by just making a deal with EA, making the so they can make the games and they get some of the profit to pay the players. Maybe 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 a season. That's still more than I make right now, but it's a lot. It's a lot, and they're not going to be going around, hopefully pay the players to go around and use the money for clothes, food when they want to go food and eating or whatever. Everyone's dug themselves in a hole. Everyone's in a hole just trying to get out. It's crazy. But I'm on the side of paying the players because this will still be a billion-dollar business, no matter if you pay the players or not. Just pay the players minimum. But then also there's sometimes that there's that stereotype where once you pay the players, who's next? You're going to pay the students? I mean, the students are going to start rioting, not wanting to go to college. College is to learn. And none of these guys that are just going one and dones are going to go learn at an institution. They're going to want to play their 1 year and go. They want to get the money. They probably made all C's, but they still have to make the grades just to play ball. But they're probably not, the 4.0 GPAs, the smart alecks, the ones that, you can't exempt those. But they're the ones that are always exempt. They're always the one that people cheat off of. Hey, did you do your homework? Yeah, can I say it again? And it's those type of people. But those are not the basketball players that are one and done. They want in and they run out. They want their money. They need their money. But, it's funny to say this, but the solution right now to all of this is we're happy we have the NCAA football games. We have all these different things. Pay the players just a little bit. Just a little bit. And hopefully everything will be all fine until, some other, the world's just filled with distractions. Filled with problems. The government's shut down. We still have to do our taxes, yes. There's a lot of distractions, news, media, but what really matters to a lot of people in the world, more than 75% of the people in the world, sports is life. At least maybe one sport, or all sports, or any sport. Sports is life. And, some people make a living off of it, some people don't. But, we don't want to see our sports go down the hole. The major league school stuff, so we turned to the college sports, and it's just becoming a little tedious, a little hard to kind of speak it all into mind because it's a rough life being a broke college student. Been there, um, but it's a hard life, and some people just don't want to live it, so they're one and done's. But getting a little bit of money on the side because they can't get a job. They're full 24/7, 7 days a week. Uh, you know, just working at it, and they can't go have a job. So their job is school, and they still don't have enough money to do this. Um, so it's a discussion for another day. But as we move into the next discussion, talking about NCAA Final Four tournament this weekend on Saturday. It starts about 5 days. So I'm hyped for it. I know y'all are. Texas Tech and or Texas Tech and Michigan State, I think, is the games. Let me look at that real quick. There also is Virginia and Auburn. Yeah, it's the games for the weekend. But some pretty interesting matchups. Some matchups that you didn't think would happen, like Auburn, at least in there. But Auburn has a clear chance. I mean, when a team is hot, you're hot. You don't want to be touched. You're flaming. You're done. It's like the NBA Jam. It's like you're on fire, and you can't miss until the other team makes a bucket. Then you're fired. It just goes like that. But this is not the NBA Jam. We don't have that animation where a fire goes on and the fire comes off. When you're on fire, you're most likely going to be on fire for a while, and we'll see how far they can go. And Virginia is in trouble. Virginia is not a scoring team, and if Auburn gets on fire, you could see Virginia just boom, right there, done. But this is Virginia's Final Four in a while, so that is something. But then also on the other side, this is now the 10th time Michigan State has been to the Final Four. Obviously, they look to be going for the crown this year after beating a tough Duke squad. I mean, Zion is now just looking forward to the draft because he's not going to get to the, Final Four, or he's not going to get to the Final Four into the championship. But congrats to Tom Izzo in Michigan State. I wish they didn't wear green because that just makes me love them even more. But Michigan State has torn Kansas's heart plenty of times in the tournament, and I can't cheer for them, but they look so good in green. But congrats. F y'all. I don't like y'all at all. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Go Texas Tech. I hope Texas Tech wins. Yeah. Red Raiders stole Kansas Big 12 title. I mean, that's the new official name. I'm calling it that because, no one else has won the Big 12 title more than Kansas has in basketball by day. It's going to be a fun game no matter where you shape it on both sides of the ball. Teams that we never have seen, fight it out and duke it out. Texas Tech and Michigan State. I believe Texas Tech, it's been, maybe this is their first. I'm going to have to look that up. Or, their second, but it's been a while if it's their second time being in the Final Four. It's also, I believe, Auburn's first time in the Final Four as well. So welcome, and welcome to the fray, because this is going to be a fun weekend. Teams that we did not expect, and I definitely did not expect it because I had UNC winning it all. I had Kentucky in there. I had maybe Duke in there as well. But we never saw it. And congrats also to Charles Barkley, who's just livid probably about all this, But we'll see how long that can go. And sure enough, if Michigan State and Virginia move on, that's going to be a fun game. And the two underdogs, Texas Tech and Auburn, if they move on, still going to have a fun game. Still going to have a lot of scouts on hand for that NBA, or for the Final Four in the NBA tournament, or not the NBA tournament, NCAA tournament, and the NBA scouts will be there trying to find out their next point guard, shooting guard, small forwards, power forwards, center, any type of business, and they might be looking for head coaches as well, because there's a lot of good head coaches in that Final Four. So, I mean, it's all out there for the taking. Who's going to take it and who is going to walk away empty-handed? But still, I mean, a lot of these teams are still cashing in checks. This is a billion-dollar business we're talking about here, people. And those players are not getting any bit of money. So we move into another conversation, and maybe a little bit more peaceful conversation, but it's the MLB's first weekend. It was opening weekend or opening week or opening day. It doesn't matter how many words you want to say with opening in front of it, but it all has to come down to one thing. When you think opening day, opening week, or opening weekend, you either think of a Lowe's that opened up in your town, or you think of baseball, the beautiful sport, the America's pastime, been around for a while, and thing or on this day in history also had to do with baseball. The first NL baseball game happened on this day, this very, very first, April 1st, back all the way in the 1800s. So, props up to you, baseball. But the first impressions from this week was pretty interesting. I had a good conversation with my dad about the Royals, and I will say this, he said, we're on pace to win 100 games. No, you're on pace to lose 100 games. Don't you understand that you face the White Sox, which are just god-awful? Except for the pitcher I talked about earlier in the show who shut out, terrible team, first off the Royals. If the Royals played any other of the 32 or 30 teams, basically, other than the White Sox and the Royals, you would have seen a different scenario, and they wouldn't be 2-1, and we would still be talking about them being the first place team in the AL Central. But hey, the Indians and the Twins were fighting it out. Great duel between them. A lot of good pitching. Barrios was pretty good this on opening day. Corey Kluber was as well. But hey, because those two teams were fighting each other, the Royals got 2 wins against another crappy team, and they move in, and now the Royals fans are ecstatic. I'm talking to you, Dad, but it's just like and every other Royal fan, but I'm just pointing out the view that don't get too hyped. The hype train is not real. It did not leave the station yet. And my Astros with 7 All-Stars, maybe 5 All-Stars, basically, are 1-3. They faced a good Rays team. I'm not saying this is going to be a terrible season, and I'm not going to be like, what the heck happened? Everyone hates each other now. No, I'm not tripping off the first game or first 4 games. I'm looking forward to the next series and the next series after that, and then the more series is more and more and more and more. But it's the first weekend. It's opening weekend. And a lot of fans have high hopes and low hopes, or no hopes at all. But everyone has hopes, and it'll be a fun season to withhold 158 games still remaining for a lot of teams. Some other teams still have less. I'm talking to you, Mariners. And some teams have more. Some teams, played only 3 games this week. But all in fun. It's going to be a fun summer. It's going to be a hot one in some places. It's going to be a cold one in some places. I'm talking to you, Minnesota and Kansas City, who had opening day games in the 40s. Oh, that's cold. That 90-mile-per-hour ball just hitting you in the back when it's 42 degrees. Yeah. My back already hurts just after me saying that. But 158 games to go, and it's going to be fun. I'm anxious to see it. I'm hoping y'all are as well. So as we get into closing moments, the first I want to talk about the games to watch here on Monday in the MLB. First off, we got Houston and Texas, the rivalry that grows bigger and bigger every year because they're in the same division in the AL, and it's going to be a fun game. It's time to see who wins the golden, or not the golden, silver boot. Goldens for Texas and Oklahoma, and they're also hat. But the 45 series, I mean, it's going to be a fun one. On the mound tonight, Brad Peacock and Drew Smiley, they get their first starts for their teams tonight. And Brad Peacock had a pretty good year last year. He had 13.92 strikeouts per 9 innings. That was a career high for him. He also had like I think a 3.50 or ERA, which is pretty good. He looks to improve on that, and maybe make it up in the rotation because Wade Miley sucked today. He had some good moments, but he sucked. And he takes on Drew Smiley, who was pretty. He used to be pretty good, but now he had an off season at an ERA above 4 for Tampa Bay last year. But Drew Smiley gets on the mound for the Texas Rangers. That's going to be a fun game. Move into Boston and Oakland. David Price versus Aaron Brooks. Both, one young and one old. David Price looking to get back to his former self, even after all the injuries and stuff. But he is on the mound. Also trying to get. He did pretty average last year with about a 3.70 ERA. But we know David Price can get, into the twos, and we know he can strike out guys, so we'll see what he can do in Oakland tonight. Aaron Brooks, he is a new pitcher for the Oakland A's, and he looks to be, he played pretty good in spring training. Now he's got that invite. Let's see how he can do. He is the 5th starter, so Oakland is entrusting the young gun, Aaron Brooks, with the ball tonight. We'll see how he does against those hot Boston hitters coming off a World Series win, as a matter of fact. But Arizona and the Padres, Merrill Kelly versus Matt Strom on tonight for both of those teams. And Arizona trying to win, at least. Well, they did win one against the Dodgers, but they're trying to win more. They're 1-3 to start out the season. So Merrill Kelly, the guy who had a average season over there in Korea last year for the Wyverns, I mean, he's gonna show what he's got to start out his game in the or start out another chance in the MLB for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But Matt Strom, he's another guy who didn't do very well last year, but this is his first start to start out a new year. The Padres, they got Manny Machado, Ian Kinsler in that lineup. They're looking to continue after a 3-1 start to their season. They're looking to move into move into another good week against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the nationally broadcast games on tonight for the MLB Monday night on ESPN. They're stealing the NFL's name. But the St. Louis Cardinals versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. Adam Wainwright versus Chris Archer. Chris Archer trying to get back to his former self, the Cy Young contender self, after being traded from Tampa last year to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And we'll see what he can do in that black and yellow at home against Adam Wainwright and the St. Louis Cardinals, who looked revamped. Adam Wainwright, he's getting older, but he is still an effective pitcher after a pretty rough year last year. He was injured for a little while, went down to AA and AAA, but St. Louis, and they're not a team to be messed with. They started off rough against Milwaukee. Did win one game, but Pittsburgh got an easy road with Cincinnati. But Chris Archer and Adam Wainwright on ESPN. That is the early game. Time for later games. First off on ESPN Plus, Giants versus Dodgers. Drew Pomeranz versus Julio Urias. And Julio Urias played pretty well in his few starts later in the season for the Dodgers, and he looks to continue that. He did struggle a little bit in the AAA, but he is a young pitcher, and he gets the nod tonight for the Dodgers. Drew Pomeranz, who had a pretty rough year last year for the Boston Red Sox, looks to get his looks back and in a Giants uniform, and they go head to head. The California rivalry continues. The Giants versus the Dodgers tonight. And then the last game of the night, the Cubs versus the Braves. Kyle Hendricks versus Sean Newcomb. Two teams, very good, but the Cubs did, they were a bit shaky against the Rangers on the road, but they are traveling still again. They will put Kyle Hendricks on the mound at SunTrust Field tonight. So could be a good game, could be a blowout, but both teams definitely need to get back on the right track after losing quite a few of their first games in the first series. So who knows? Who knows what will happen tonight? Those are your games to watch in the MLB. Now time for the games to watch in the NBA. We've got the Portland Trail Blazers trying to keep in pace with the top spots with a few games left to go. They could be up at number 2. That's just a scenario. But Portland is currently 4th place in the West, and the eliminated Minnesota Timberwolves look to just kind of, hurt their Western Conference foe, and the Portland Trail Blazers, and keep them maybe out of a good spot in the playoffs. Portland also trying to clinch the playoffs tonight versus Minnesota. Pistons and Pacers, the 5 and 6 seed. Pistons trying to continue their winning streak after a good win against Portland a few days ago, but the Pacers are looking to stay alive and get maybe a better seed, get home court for a first round against Boston. But right now, the Pacers and Pistons on tonight, and the Magic versus the Raptors. Magic, the 9 seed, trying to beat out the Heat, the 8 seed, for the chance to go to the playoffs. And the Raptors trying to stay alive with the Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo trying to move farther into first place if the Magic win tonight, trying to stay alive for the playoffs. Another nationally broadcast game on tonight. It is on NBA TV. 8th place Heat going up against those Boston Celtics in 4th place. So the Pacers definitely need the Heat to win, but the Magic are trying to have Boston win. So it's gonna be some fun games to watch. Dwayne Wade, his last game in Boston in TD Garden, will be on tonight, as Kyrie Irving trying to win his way into maybe even a better spot. They're only a few games behind Philadelphia, so we'll see if the Boston Celtics can get even farther up and get first round for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, and that will be our first round, I think, just first round in the playoffs. But there you go, up against the Heat, who are trying to stay alive and make it to the playoffs with Dwayne Wade, his last time. And the next game is a doozy. The both eliminated Suns versus Cleveland. Cleveland trying to, show off their young guns with Colin Sexton and Seti Osman versus, the Suns, who's trying to show off their young guns, DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker. It's late game, and what can you do? It's the only thing on. Gotta watch it. Suns and Cleveland on NBA TV. That is your nightcap for tonight in the NBA. And as we move on to the NHL, the Oilers versus the Golden Knights. Steven's favorite team, the Golden Knights. They are currently in 6th place in the Western Conference. And if the Oilers do lose tonight, they will be eliminated from the playoffs. They have not been eliminated yet, but the Golden Knights get that lucky little thing to be able to eliminate a team even before the playoffs. It's good to be a playoff team. But as we move into the next game, Colorado versus the Blues. Colorado trying to move into the playoffs. They're only a few points down in the Western Division, but the Blues are trying to gain some spots in the playoffs. They are only 3 seeds above Colorado, and Colorado can make a name for itself if they can win tonight against the Blues, a playoff contending team. So, that's another good game to watch. And our nationally broadcast games for the NHL on, I think, NBCSN. The Maple Leafs versus the Islander, the 4 versus the 5 seed. Both teams trying to make it into the playoffs. And, they're trying to fight for, position. So both teams will be, at each other's necks and literally hitting the socks off each other that night in New York. Third place, Jets versus Chicago, who is only 10 points back of the playoffs. Chicago trying to win. Winnipeg already kind of have secured their spots. So Winnipeg will, kind of maybe take it easy. You could see them rest a few guys tonight, but Chicago at home against the Jets have a very good possibility of still making the playoffs. They are not eliminated yet in the Western Conference, but it could be pretty good. Game on tonight, that is your nightcap for the NHL. But it's been a good Monday show, and I will see you all tomorrow. Don't forget Wake and Bake with Steven and Jake on Friday. So have a good Monday. Hope to see you all tomorrow.